how also from Brahmaji's body or for through Brahmaji there was various creations that happened. So when all that creation was happening, so the information regarding that creation was given in chapters 10, 11, and 12. And in the 12th chapter, we saw how Brahmaji, after seeing that the populating the universe, the task of populating the universe is not going well, so he created Swayambhuva Manu. So Vidura asked, what did Swayambhuva Manu do after he was created? For that question, Maitreya explained that after Swayambhuva Manu was born, he needed some help in terms of keeping the planet Earth in its place. So Brahmaji was contemplating how to do this. That's when Varahadev appeared and did the job for Brahmaji on behalf of Lord Brahma. And there, Maitreya also combined the narration how Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha. So Vidura had a doubt. Swayambhu Manu is just born and he has not even started to do anything. So where did Hiranyaksha come from? Hiranyaksha is son of Diti, and Diti is daughter of Daksha. Daksha is so Anbomana has not started producing progeny. So where did all these people come from? So how did Hiranyaksha appear there? So when he had this doubt and he asked in the chapter 13, and in connection to that we saw how due to an untimely conception, Diti got two demoniac sons. And by the effect of their being in the womb of Diti, the whole universe was having difficulties. So the demigods approached Brahma, and Brahma was explaining how did those two demons end up in the womb of Diti. That's what we are discussing. So Brahmaji started explaining the history of what happened in the spiritual world once, in the Vaikuntha once, that four Kumaras were visiting, and then they were trying to see the Lord, and then Jaya and Vijaya stopped them. So what happened? That's what we are going to see this week. Last week we saw a description of the spiritual or the Vaikuntha planet, and how are the plants there, how are the trees, how are the men and women and the birds and the flowers. Everything we saw a description of various aspects of the Vaikuntha planets we saw last week. So this week we are just going to see that after seeing all these different aspects of the spiritual world or the Vaikuntha, the four Kumaras were making their way through each gate of the Vaikuntha. So, and they are now currently at the seventh gate. So, we are going to see what happens at that particular point. So, if anyone has any questions at this point of time, you can ask.
Prabhu, no.
Okay.
Prabhu, just a small question.
Okay.
So that Varadev and this Varadev are different, right? Who killed Hiranyaksha and who generated Swayambhuva Manu?
They are different.
Oh, so the pastime of who generated Swayambhuva Manu will be discussed later, or it's not discussed at all?
It is not discussed in so much of a detail later, because what happened was he just picked up the earth or the universe, and then it was placed in the orbit. There was nothing much that happened during that particular appearance of Varahadev.
Okay.
That was detail actually discussed in the 13th chapter itself, because the sages, what kind of prayers they are offering, what was the form of the Lord, and how did he keep back, and all those things were discussed in this chapter. What was not discussed in that chapter was how did the fight go about? Why did the fight first of all happen? And how did the fight go on between Hiranyaksha and Varaha? That was not explained. So those details will be explained from chapter 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and all that is what is going to be explained. What is the background of that curse that happened, and how did they end up becoming Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu? And then how did the fight happen between Varahadev and Hiranyaksha? That we will see until the chapters 18 and 19.
This is all Svetavara, right?
This is Neelavaraha actually. Shvetavaraha happened in Swayambhu Manvantara.
Okay. And his pastime is just that much, nothing else.
Just picking up
Explain.
the Earth and then keeping in its orbit. That was the main task to be accomplished by that Varaha.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay.
So now we are back into today's discussion of what happened when the Kumaras visited the Vaikuntha planet. So here we are starting from the verse 26, and here it says in the 26th verse how by the strength of Yogamaya they actually could enter the Vaikuntha planets because uh, they were still in their material bodies. How were they able to go into Vaikuntha? So certain commentators also mention that how this Vaikuntha is the planet within the universe, the Vaikuntha planet within the universe. So and also here in this particular verse, Prabhupada also clearly writes by how by their strength, by the strength of Yoga Maya, that the Lord actually wanted them to come also. There was some desire of the Lord also involved in their visit to Vaikuntha. And after they reached, they were crossing each gate, and they were approaching the seventh gate. That is where they encountered Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya are the doorkeepers on the seventh gate, which leads to the sanctum of the Supreme Lord, or the residence of the Supreme Lord. And they were actually very angry looking at the four Kumaras, because there is a detailed description how the four Kumaras were looking like. So they were actually even elder to Lord Shiva because they were the first born sons of Lord Brahma. So they're as good as in their age like Lord Brahma. They're quite old. However, by their yogic energy, they have chosen to remain as 5-year-old son, 5-year-old boys, just to be, just to understand, just to be a renunciant. Sorry, I just have to admit someone. Yeah. So just to remain as renunciants, they remained as 5-year-old sons, and they are generally not dressed with clothes. They are dressed with four directions. It is very respectfully said in the Vedic literature. They are dressed in four directions means they were not wearing anything. And here the duty of the Jaya and Vijaya is to guard the gate. Of course, who is going to come in the Vaikuntha planet who is not supposed to, but still that is their duty. And here they see that the four Kumaras are trying to attempt to go inside the seventh gate also. So they have been walking through the sixth gate without any obstruction. So they think, oh, through this gate also we can go. And even in the material world, they were always used to go to wherever they want to. There was no restrictions. Being Brahman realized Gyanis, they could go wherever they want to. That's how they even floated here to this planet also. So when they started attempting to enter, Jaya and Vijaya actually kept their clubs crossing each other, blocking their way, and the four Kumaras became completely angry. And the reason for Jaya and Vijaya stopping them is one thing is each gate of Vaikuntha is also representing a certain level of devotional qualification. Only people with certain qualifications could actually go beyond those doors. For Kumaras, pass through 6 doors, but to pass through the seventh door, they should be possessing pure devotion, which they don't have. So that is the reason that the four Kumaras were stopping the four Jaya and Vijaya were stopping the four Kumaras from entering because they were not having pure devotion, which is a qualification to enter inside the door, the seventh door. So they were blocked by Jaya and Vijaya and they become completely angry. So the Kumaras actually, for Kumara's eyes turns red with anger, and because of their desire to the Lord was thwarted, suddenly obstructed by the doorkeepers, they they become extremely angry and they react to that situation. Because generally, Brahma realized Gyanis are supposed to be composed. That is the idea. Because they are also being Brahman realized in Gyanis, they are thinking everybody should be seen equal. So why are they not seeing everyone equal? Rathyatra Prabhu, you are raising your hands. You can ask if you have any.
Prabhuji, I'm sorry. So, how did, again, I might have forgotten. So, how did Jaya Vijay came to know four Kumaras are not pure devotees? Obviously, we know that studying or reading. So, how they came to know, or because of they displayed certain things, that's how they could make. I mean, Jaya Vijay could make out, or
In the comment, Jiva Goswami writes in Bhagavad Sandarbha actually that the four Kumaras were actually not dressed, and that itself was like generally that is only done by Gyanis. Generally, devotees don't remain like that, and especially when they want to see the Lord, it's not a very great thing to go naked before someone, especially if he's a very respectable person. No one goes before a respectable person in the form of as a naked in. So they are like quite even though they look like 5-year-olds, they are not 5-year-olds. And before and the Jay and Vijay are thinking it's not appropriate for them to go naked before the Lord, because that's not how you present yourself to a respectable person. And this sensitivity is not there in them because they are not into personal relationships, because they are into Brahman realization, they are not getting this particular aspect. And also, Jay and Vijay, being pure devotees of the Lord, could actually understand that these personalities are not qualified to go. They could understand that. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
thank you, Prabhuji. So, yeah, yes.
Here I see some comments by Athena also. So, Hare Krishna, Vandavas to you. Okay, the four Kumaras are also 12 Mahajans. So, the 12 Mahajans are included. That's very true. But it is after they become pure devotees. And also, the path of religion is not just there, what is being discussed there is not just pure devotion, advanced personalities in the path of dharma. That is what is generally mentioned in those 12 Mahajans. Those 12 Mahajans are not necessarily all of them the kind of rasa or the kind of pure devotion that has a Gaudiya philosophy or anything like that. They are greatly advanced personalities in the path of Dharma. So to understand Dharma, one has to follow in those Mahajans path. But still, when it comes to the details of pure devotional service, they are all like having different gradations in that also. So yeah, they are pure devotees after this particular episode. They become from being Brahman Gyanis, they become personalist devotees of the Lord. Aren't okay, and even to get into Vaikuntha, one must already be a pure devotee. And here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clearly says they were not allowed to enter into Vaikuntha actually. In the sense they are only in the precincts of the Vaikuntha. That's why the Lord comes to the gate of the Vaikuntha to meet them. They are still in the gate to enter into Vaikuntha. And the Lord is going to come outside to meet them. So there Krishna Chakravarti explains why the Lord did not call them inside to meet to resolve the conflict. Rather, He came out as they were not actually qualified to enter. That is why He came out to see them. Does that answer your question, Athena?
Yes, thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
So now that the four Kumaras are extremely angry, so what are they going to do to the for Jaya and Vijaya? That's what is the section from verse 32 to 34. So they call Jaya and Vijay as imposters. They say, where is the possibility of an enemy coming here? So why do you even like think there is somebody going to do a harm to your master or something like that? Why are you just bothered that somebody is friend, somebody is enemy? Where is this conception coming from? Because they being Brahmagyan, they think they feel like having equal vision is the highest quality, because equal vision in their understanding of being Brahman Jnani is equal treatment. That is how they see it. But when it comes to love, when you love a person, you are more concerned about the person. Here, Jaya and Vijaya are trying to serve the Lord with love. So it's not that Vaikuntha is having enemies or anything like that. It is a bhav, it is a mood that I want to protect my Lord. I want to serve my Lord in this way. I want to make sure that He is safe. Even though He is the Supreme Lord, there is no need of that kind of fear. But Jay and Vijay are in a particular rasa. They are in the mood of loving to a servitude. So, and that is the reason they are trying to obstruct. And moreover, it is not just their mental concoction. These four Kumaras are at this stage not qualified to enter those states. That is another reason. Apart from that, also, why they were not, their argument of you have to be seeing everyone equal, that does not hold here, because that seeing equal in the idea of a Brahma Gyani is equal treatment. But here there is a play of love where a person is more concerned in his service, so out of that concern, they are trying to do this act. They are not just trying to see somebody's enemy or like that. They are trying to see, okay, these people are not qualified and they are not in an appropriate vesha, appropriate form to go to meet the Lord. And also, they don't have the qualification. That is also a main thing. And then they explain to Jay and Vijay, or they say to Jay and Vijay, that there is complete harmony in Vaikuntha between the residents and the Lord. So why then there is fear here? So actually it is not out of fear that Jay and Vijay are stopping. And then they say, because you guys have this duality, generally seen in the material world, you better go to the material world because that seems to be the better place for you, natural place for you, because you are seeing duality even in Vaikuntha. So better go to the material world. So that's what they are punishing. So they're punishing them by saying, therefore we consider the apt punishment for you who see duality in Vaikuntha. Go to the material world, and where there are three enemies, lust, anger, and greed. That place is the suitable place for you. So in this way, they pronounce the curse
So,
for.
Prabhuji, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So this brings another point. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So can we take it? Suppose Lord wanted to create this scene. He wanted both fight so that Lord can come and compromise and see that both are satisfied. And as you said in the beginning, he had an intention. So he's bringing them there. So had he not made them fall asleep so that they could have gone easily? I'm just saying another angle, which is always true. Everything happening in the Lord. So just a thought.
However, it can unfold in various ways. Once we go through the whole pastime, we will see how there are so many angles to it, and how Krishna is such an expert, Lord Vishnu is such an expert. With one act, he achieves a lot of results. Just with this one act of bringing in Kumaras and then they're being cursed and all these things, he's going to achieve n number of things. So I was just thinking of opening them one by one as we go through the verses. So,
yes, Prabhuji, go ahead. Sorry.
okay. So here at this point of time, so they have pronounced the curse, and Jayan and Vijay became immediately fearful. So here is what is the turning point. So far, Kumaras are thinking, I'm right, we are right. We had all the right to go in. They are not even considering there may be some lacking in ourselves that we are not even qualified to go. That's why these guys have stopped us. Who even gave us the permission to go? They are just thinking, I should be able to go anywhere. Who can stop me? Means I don't need permission to go anywhere, even if it is to meet the Supreme Lord. That's what is their attitude. But they are not able to see that. They are completely feeling, yes, I'm perfect and I'm fully qualified to go inside. But here, as soon as they curse, how Jayan Vijay is going to react is a major turning point in their attitude of the four Kumaras. So what happens as soon as the curse was pronounced, they understand the terrible effect of the curse, especially they are Brahmanas, and the four Kumaras are Brahmanas. And Jay and Vijay understand that generally the Brahmanas' curse are not easy to contract or cannot be contracted. So they become very fearful and they fall at the feet of the four Kumaras. But what they say is going to melt the heart of four Kumaras. They say, let your punishment bear fruit. There is no problem. Because you are Brahmanas, your words is going to come true. That's okay. Let it bear fruit. And for our neglecting to respect sages like you, we may have to suffer that, but that's fine. But we pray that due to your compassion at our repentance, we will not forget the Lord under the illusion of the material world. Because they said go to the material world because that is the place of lust, anger, and greed. So immediately before Jaya and Vijay is saying, we don't mind going there. We don't mind actually suffering the punishment that you gave us. But let us never forget the Supreme Lord. So as soon as this attitude of, as a devotee, this attitude of Jaya and Vijaya comes out, that affects the hearts of the four Kumaras. Because they could immediately see how, what is the concern of these people. Their concern is their Lord. Their concern is, I never want to forget my Lord. They are not thinking, oh, I'll be suffering there, please forgive me, let this not be happening. No, there is no bargain of that sort is happening. A similar episode happens with Chitraketu Maharaj also. When Parvati curses, he comes and accepts the curse, and Lord Shiva also glorifies, yes, this is the, so this is the aspect of Hare Krishna. And so, okay. Here we see how immediately seeing the repentance of the repentance of Jaya and Vijaya, the heart of four Kumaras actually transformed. So it is also here said that repentance has actually touched, they have received the mercy of the two devotees, Jaya and Vijaya, by showing repentance. It's a different way that the four Kumaras actually receive the mercy here. And the Kumaras also now realize, oh, maybe we did a mistake. So they actually understand, okay, maybe I did a mistake. Kumaras also repent for having cursed the devotees and in turn offended the Lord because of doing that. So when this total anxiety is there in both the sides, and they both are actually feeling repentance after performing this act, there is some inner humility which is evoked. So Vishnu Chakravarti writes that because there was inner humility aroused in the hearts of both the Kumaras and Jaya and Vijaya, because of repenting to each other, the Lord appeared. Because the Lord appears when there is sincere repentance and there is bhakti in the heart. So that's what attracts the Lord. So now, because of their disposition, they attract Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan, outside to the gates. So he's going to come out. So that's what is going to be discussed in this verses from 37 to 45, where the Lord arrives and gives darshan to the four Kumaras. So let's go through the details of what is being described in these verses. This is really inspiring section.
Prabhuji, one small question.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
So Jabija is having the mood of, seems to be Gopi's mood. So in Golok Vrindavan, everybody's mood is same, or I mean, in the mood of Gopis, because they're all pure devotees.
Okay, what do you mean by mood, Prabhu? You are meaning by rasa?
Like Gopis, they told when Krishna was sick, he sent, he was looking for sand, dust from lotus feet of devotees. Everybody was scared. Finally Gopis told, let us, we don't care, we'll give our dust for 1 second. It gives the relief Krishna from headache. We would like to go for eternity to go to hell.
Okay.
So that was the type of mood. They don't care for their punishment or where they land or something like that. So is that the mood? Everybody in Golak Vrindavan's mood is like Gopis Bhava or whatever. I don't know what you call it.
So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains how in the spiritual world, dasya, that is the servitude, is the foundation of all mellows. All the mellows, like if you see dasya and then sakhya, vatsalya and madhurya, all of them have one thing common, which is servitude. All of them consider themselves as servants of the Supreme Lord. So that servitude is common mood in all the residents of the spiritual planets. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Prabhuji, please repeat again. I'm sorry. So
I mentioned how in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that servitude is the dasyatva is the foundation of all rasas, of all feelings that everybody has in the spiritual world. So the various rasas, we have dasya, sakhya, vatsalya, and then madhurya. All these other rasas also have dasyatva or servitude as the foundation. That is the foundation on which other feelings, other mellows, other relationships, everything is built upon that background of servitude. So here, Jay and Vijay are also showing a flavor of that servitude.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay, thank you. Yes.
So now understanding the situation, what is going on outside in the gates, that the four Kumaras and the Jay and Vijay are into trouble. So the Supreme Lord actually comes out. So here we need to see a little bit of a background why this is even happening. Because once the Lord actually desired to take rest, and he orders Jay and Vijaya to prevent anyone from disturbing him. So he came and told Jay and Vijaya, I'm going to take rest. I don't want anyone to disturb me. So and they were trying to follow that order. And at that time, Lakshmi Devi came to see the Lord, and Jay and Vijay stop Lakshmi Devi also. She actually becomes very upset, but because of being Lakshmi Devi, she doesn't show anything. She doesn't retaliate. But later, when she meets the Supreme Lord, she lodges a complaint saying, actually, Jay and Vijay did not let me in to see you, and I felt it's wrong. So I want you to chastise them. But the Lord was not inclined to do so directly because he was the one who gave the order to Jay and Vijay, and they were just acting in the line of duty. And they were also very dear to the Lord. So Lord Vishnu was not inclined to chastise them just for the sake of like placating Lakshmi Devi, just reducing her anger. He didn't want to be like a henpecked husband. So he understands how to do this. And also he understands that the goddess of fortune would not be satisfied until Jaya and Vijay is like kind of um, punished or like chastised. So he arranged for a confrontation with the Kumaras to accomplish this. That is one of the reasons. And and the Lord also wished to engage in battle, and there is no one who is qualified in the material world to fight with him. So he chose to disguise his own devotees as demons, and so that he can have that rasa here, the virya rasa. So that is another reason. And also, he wanted Kumaras were actually sincere personalities, and he wanted them to understand what is the greatness of the feature of the Bhagavan aspect of the absolute truth. They are so much into the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So he wanted to show them the sweetness of the personal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Bhagavan aspect. So all these various reasons are achieved by this one pastime. And that is the reason here we see in this verse 37 that the Supreme Lord does not arrive alone, and he does not call the Kumaras and and Jay and Vijaya to his chamber. Okay, let them come in. I'll resolve it here. No, he actually goes there, and the scenario is very nicely described here in these verses. How the Lord walks barefooted because he is in a hurry, and also the reason for he walking barefoot is to show his lotus feet to the four Kumaras, to transform their hearts. And also he's taking Lakshmi along. Why is he taking Lakshmi along? So there's amazing reasons given for taking Lakshmi along here. So Jiva Goswami points out that here Lakshmi, the reason for Lakshmi being taken there is one of the acharyas say that four Kumaras are renunciants, and when they in the presence of a woman, their anger will be mitigated. They will immediately actually behave themselves. They understand, okay, here is a woman, so we need to behave ourselves. So they may become subside. Their anger might subside. That is one reason. And also, Lakshmi Devi could personally witness Jaya and Vijaya being reprimanded for something. So her desire also could be actually satisfied. And also the other reason is Lakshmi Devi is also the mother. She is like the mother of everyone. So like the mother, she can actually pacify the anger of the four Kumaras. That is another, these are the various reasons given here. And Kumaras as guests, So they are guests, but the four Jaya and Vijaya are his own servants. So that differentiation is going to happen here in this particular episode. Yes, so whoever has raised hands, is it Gayatri Mataji?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. What was like a Lakshmi Devi's, like, I mean, why she wanted to get both of them reprimanded? I didn't get that one.
Once Lord was taking rest and he had told Jaya and Vijaya, do not allow anybody to come to my chamber now until I'm resting. And when Lakshmi Devi attempted to enter the chamber, Jaya and Vijaya stopped even Lakshmi Devi. So that kind of irked her. So she went and lodged a complaint with the Lord saying, how could they stop me? And but the Lord was like, so you have to chastise them. They can do this again. But the Lord was not going to chastise them because he was the one who had actually ordered them to do so. At the same time, he understands it will be Lakshmi Devi will be specified if she saw them being reprimanded. So that is another reason given here.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhu, Ritesh here. Prabhu, in
Yes.
all of this pastime, I am seeing that there is no fault of Jay and Vijay anytime. So, for example, you gave two reasons. One was the Lakshmi Devi's reason. Again, there was no fault. Jay Vijay was just following the orders of their master. Second, you mentioned about the Veer Ras, the desire of the Supreme Lord to have a fight. So, means I'm getting confused that there was no absolute fault of Jaya and Vijaya, but because of all these external reasons which is not related to them, Jaya and Vijaya will be suffering in the material world, though they have absolute no fault of them. So, so is it kind of a fair justice to them? I'm a bit confused actually, because
Okay. I
means
understand.
what's their fault means, you understand, going to the miserable, going from spiritual world to material world for these great devotees is such a miserable thing. But so is it just they're pleasing the Supreme Lord out of their devotion? Because if I try to explain this to some outside person, this will say, oh, they had no fault and they're just going just to have a desire of someone else, right? So how would we explain this situation?
Okay, means first, like explaining to someone else is important. At the same time, for us also to understand is like is I think that is most important also, because once we understand what is happening here, then we'll be at peace and we also can get it across nicely. If you read the whole past time, we can clearly see, and also these are the climate around the where we are living now is a climate of justice. It seems sometimes like when you the way you explain, it seems like there is some injustice happening with Jay and Vijay because they were cursed for no fault. They were made like Lakshmi Devi became angry for their no fault of Jay and Vijay, and the Lord wants to fight, so he sends them. So, personal relationship is always not going to be just based on justice. It is also going to base love is not just based on justice. So here, when you become a servant of Krishna, you also dance according to his whims. So I'm telling a very higher principle. It's not just we all have to suffer to please Krishna, and Krishna is not a God who wants us to suffer and take pleasure out of that. I'm not meaning that, but I'm saying the principle how when in the state of a pure devotee, they are actually ready to dance according to the tunes of the Supreme Lord. That is not torture. They don't see it as injustice or anything like that. They are happy to play a part. And Jiva Goswami says in the Bhagavad Sandarbha commentary that how when Jayan Vijaya took the various demonic forms, still in their hearts they remained in their spiritual form. They did not become like demoniac in a sense of fully demoniac, because they were actually doing a role play. They were not like in and out demon. They retained their spiritual form internally. That's what Jiva Goswami writes. And to come to this aspect of justice or why they are going through this, is there are more things achieved here. Excuse me. There are more things achieved here in this pastime that the Supreme Lord also wants to show to the world what is the nature of his devotees, how they are surrendered to him, how they are actually willing to do anything for the sake of serving him. And also, he shows the aspect of how offenses to devotees vary. Offenses to Brahmanas and offenses to the Vaishnavas is very, very serious problem in one's life that it can create. So there is so many layers to this particular aspect. So we have to see, say for example, many times people say, why did Lord Ram banish Sita? That's a good sentiment. Okay, also see what Sita thinks about that. You and me have some can have opinions about what is happening, but let's also see the person who is going through what is that person's opinion. So here Jay and Vijay, what is their opinion, that will come out. We will gradually see that also. So here there are more layers in into this pastime. So in short, if I have to explain, there are reasons like how the Lord wants to show the surrenderedness of a devotee, what his surrendered devotees can do, how much extent they can go in order to please him, serve him, even if it involves some inconvenience for themselves. At the same time, we will see how Krishna also goes through inconvenience for the sake of serving his devotees. It is not a one-way relationship, it is a mutual relationship. Does this answer your question, Prabhu?
It does, Prabhu. So basically, there are two important points. Lord is indirectly glorifying his devotees, that his devotees are so surrendered that they are ready to go through such inconvenience for his pleasure. And second, Vaishnava Aparad is a serious business, so we should avoid it at all costs. There are two important points. Okay. Makes sense, Prabhu. Thanks.
Prabhu, you want to ask something?
True, I have one doubt. Is Jay and Vijay came down, or uh, like the same spiritual personalities can exist both in the spiritual world and the material world at the same time? So since they were the assigned doorkeepers, did they stay there and as well as manifested here in the lifetimes, just as we see Mahaprabhu's pastimes or Krishna's pastimes? Or is it like that position were taken over by someone else and they had to come down?
So your question is, if they had to come down, so did they, like, generally we see eternal spiritual personalities can remain in the spiritual world, at the same time can expand to be present in the material world also. So was that the scenario when they were cursed, or they actually came? Is that the question that you're asking?
Yes, Prabhu. So if you are cursed, generally you, I mean, if you are coming for participation in the pastimes of the Lord,
Hmm.
then you're there simultaneously in the spiritual world or the material world. I mean, that's the conception I heard. If
Hmm.
you're participating in the pastimes of the Lord,
If
the
we
Nitya Siddha.
I got it. If you see here in 8th canto, somewhere around 21st chapter, when the demons are going to be fighting, uh, headed by Bali Maharaj. Okay, it's not just the demons fighting. Vamandev actually appears and then asks for boons. Bali Maharaj gives the boons, and once the demons realize that Vamandev actually grows in size and cheats in one sense, by two steps he has already occupied everything that Bali Maharaj possessed. So they become very extremely angry. Against the will of Bali Maharaj, they go to fight against the Supreme Lord. So seeing that they are coming to attack, there are various personalities, the associates of the Supreme Lord, they go to fight them. So there, Jayan Vijaya's name is also mentioned. So in the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, how can, like, if you raise a question like how is Jayan Vijay here? Because this is Vamanadev's pastime, that means Prahlad Maharaj is there, and Prahlad Maharaj's father was Hiranyakashipu, and Jayan Vijaya get to take two more forms, that means. So how come Jayan Vijaya are here? So they're actually Vishwanath Chakravarti explains how they are the expansions. Jaya and Vijaya actually remain in the spiritual world. They also expand as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and they are also expanding as Jaya and Vijaya to protect the Vamanadev. So he clearly mentions there that they are expansions and the eternal forms of residing, because they're continuing to do their service in the spiritual world. But even that expansion, they are, when they expand, it's not like they are also individuals. In that sense, they're going through that experience, and they are also setting the example for the world. So in that way, neither their service is affected, at the same time they are also going through that particular experience. Beyond that, how that expansion works, I also don't know. This is what I read in the commentary.
No, thank you very much, Prabhu. I had this doubt because what you told, I heard similar things somewhere else, uh, maybe a couple of years back. So I just wanted to clarify. And thank you for the reference.
So we are here in the, pretty much I kind of prepared today that I won't be able to complete even these 25 verses, because this section is like filled with a lot of questions. So just feel free to ask your questions. I'm not like, I can even take a separate class next week just to go through the storyline in an uninterrupted way after all your questions are answered. So just feel free if you have any questions. So the Kumaras, now in the 38th verse, we are here. The Lord has just come out with Lakshmi Devi, and I just gave you the background of why is Lakshmi Devi coming here. So in the verse 38, the Kumaras who saw the Lord only within their hearts earlier, because they were Brahmagyanis, they were meditating, and they were actually meditating on the personal form of the Lord. Because generally, in this particular verse, Prabhupada will be writing how we generally think impersonalist Gyanis means they should be meditating on Brahman. But here they clearly say this is the same Lord that they saw in their hearts when they were meditating. So Prabhupada makes the point in the purport also. And here now they are seeing the same Lord whom they saw in their hearts personally for the first time. And when they are directly seeing him accompanied by his devotees, and all the devotees are carrying different worship paraphernalia, it's all so beautifully explained how different devotees are carrying chamara, some devotees carrying the wonderful umbrella above the head of Lord Vishnu. So the whole atmosphere, we can just imagine how amazing it would be that with all that pure service attitude of various servants, that the Lord is being surrounded and appearing before Kumaras. Because there is also subtle hints here. When the Kumaras saw in the heart, Paramatma is standing alone. There is no devotee surrounded there. So there is not much of a personal reciprocation being seen from Paramatma in a direct sense. But here they can see the same Lord is appearing, but the difference is he is being surrounded by devotees. And those devotees are very different from, they are having a different mood than from, uh, I'll answer your question, Shuman, for just a minute. So they're actually, their mood is of not having a relationship. But here they see these devotees who are surrounding the Supreme Lord, they are carrying paraphernalia of worship. There is an active service attitude. It is not just they are happy by meditating on the Supreme Lord. But here, that meditation and that interest in understanding the Supreme Lord has transformed into service attitude. So they are first hand seeing what it means to be a devotee, and what kind of a loving relationship exists around the Lord, surrounded by the Lord, by these devotees. So that they are getting to see, that dynamics they are getting to see for the first time in the spiritual world. So that's much more impactful on their head. So that's what is happening. Gradually there is a transformation happening in their hearts. Already they saw the attitude of Jaya and Vijaya, which itself touched their hearts. Oh my God, we curse these people, and they are not concerned about taking birth in the material world. Rather, they are concerned about forgetting their Supreme Lord, leaving their Supreme Lord, or not remembering, not serving their Supreme Lord. So, the remembrance of the Supreme Lord they are holding more important than what they have to go through externally. And now they are seeing various devotees carrying worshipful paraphernalia. That means there is an active service attitude, which is a very new thing for Kumaras to experience. And here Shuman Prabhu is asking the question, are the Kumaras Paramatmavadis or Brahmavadis? The sadhana could be very similar. The Brahmavadis also meditate, So their meditation is also based on Paramatma. Paramatmavadis also meditate, but they actually tend to have a more personal relationship, and they can actually go to the enter the Vaikuntha planet. If the same Paramatmavadis, if they meditate on the super soul, and if their attitude is more of impersonalist, and they desire to merge in the Brahman, that's what will be happening. And also the other understanding here is there are two kinds of liberated devotees or liberated jnanis or liberated Brahma jnanis. One is Jivan Mukta and the one is the Atyantika Mukti. So Jiva Mukti is what being experienced by the four Kumaras, because Atyantika Mukti is after the body is given up that happens. So here they are liberated, but they are still continuing to exist in their bodies. So it is possible to be liberated while living in the body. That is the concept of Jivan Mukti. And the four Kumaras are in that category of impersonal liberation. They are not completely liberated out of the body, but still they are established in the liberated, impersonal liberated stage. That was the stage of Shukadeva Goswami also, because later they all become devotees and they continue to exist. So the Atyantika Mukti, the Mukti that one achieves after giving up the body, is not the Mukti that they had achieved. So they had meditated even for Brahman realization. There is a sadhana. So that sadhana was meditating, they were meditating on the Supreme Lord. And through their meditation, they saw the Supreme Lord in their heart. And that's what is clearly mentioned in this verse also.
So you can see the Supreme Lord and still aspire to merge into his Brahman feature.
Yes, that is the difference between Mayavadis and Brahmavadis. Brahmavadis are those who know that a Supreme Lord exists, but they prefer to be in the Brahman. Mayavadis say there is no God, and I am that God, and everything that exists is only Brahman. There is nothing beyond Brahman. So that is the idea of Mayavadi. So there is a difference in that.
So Paramatmavadis should either aspire pure devotion service or impersonalism. There is no stop at Paramatmavad. Once one, like Brahman wants to merge, Paramatman people see the Paramatma in the heart, but after that they either think of merging or doing bhakti. Is it that?
Yeah, because
Okay.
Paramatma is in their heart, but they understand their material body is temporary. So how do you establish a permanent relationship with that Paramatma?
Okay. So they understand there is something
The
called
body has to
Brahman.
be given up, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the eternal situation? So either you go to Brahman as an eternal situation, or you choose the Vaikuntha planet as an eternal situation. There is only these two choices.
Okay. So they know there is something called Brahman existing after seeing the Lord.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu, please carry on.
So now that the four Kumaras have looked at the devotees being having a service attitude, now the beautiful form of the Lord's beautiful form is going to be described here in these three verses. His face, the Lord's face. Now seeing in heart and seeing in person is going to have a different impact. So now in these verses, how it's going to impact after these verses, we will see. The face of the Supreme Lord is explained as auspicious, pleasing, most desirable. I'm so sorry, it's already 7:54. Probably I'll have to stop here and then take the rest of the verses next week. The description of the Lord's beautiful form is given here. How his face is auspicious, pleasing, most desirable, and he is blessing everyone uh, by just his beauty. And his glance is touching the core of the hearts. And his complexion is dark like a cloud, and his broad chest is the residence of Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, and his waist is having a yellow cloth with a shining girdle. So here the commentary says how the yellow cloth, which is Pitambara, considers itself as mm, so fortunate, and the yellow cloth, the Pitambar, thinks the waist of the Lord actually belongs to me. It's my place, because I adorn the waist of the Lord. So Pitambar is thinking like that. The Lord belongs to Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. So the waist of the Supreme Lord belongs to me. That's what Pitambara is thinking. And the jewel which is put over the belt which is put on above the cloth is thinking, I am actually superior to you because I am sitting above you. So the belt is thinking, I am even like, I'm also having a relationship here. I'm even standing out on above you, so one notch above. And then the flower garlands are thinking, oh, the fresh flower garlands. We are even like covering that belt. We are even above one level above that belt. So when the fresh garlands are the Vanamala is thinking like that, Vajayantimala is thinking like that, then the beast says, actually, I'm superior to you guys because you are my the flowers are considered the property of the bees because the essence of the flowers is honey, and who takes the honey? It is the bees. So generally, the bees are considered the owners of the flowers. So that is why here these fresh garlands are covered by bees, and they are thinking, actually, you are all our property, and we are very happy that our property is decorating the Supreme Lord. So in that way, the bees are feeling even a kind of a relationship. So here there is a sweet dependence. Everybody is thinking, I belong to Narayan in some way or other. Means Pitambar is thinking, being grateful that yes, I'm actually adorning the waist of the Supreme Lord. And the belt is thinking the same, and the garlands are thinking the same, and the bumblebees are thinking. So there is like a deep relationship with, even though these are in general in this world considered inanimate objects that we enjoy. But here in the Vaikuntha planet, each and everything is conscious and they're all having a service attitude there. And there is an aspect of pride which is categorically different. It's a mellow, it's a rasa. That pride is not the stinking pride of this world, is not a competitiveness of this world. It has a certain rasa and it only enhances the loving mood of service to the Lord. And in this way, when all of these things are being put on by the Lord, they are all getting beautified by being used by the Lord. And then the Lord is having a charming necklace and a Kaustubha gel, and his hand is rested on the shoulder of Garuda. So here in the commentary it is said, generally Garuda carries the Lord, but here Garuda is walking by the Lord. He is not using him. Rather, he is walking without any even sandals or slippers. He's just walking barefoot. And when he's going to speak to the four Kumaras, when the four Kumaras are looking at the Lord, one of his hand is resting on the shoulder of Garuda, and the other hands he's twirling a lotus. So Vishnu Chakravarti is writing, by twirling the lotus, God is actually churning the hearts of the four Kumaras. So that motion of rotating is actually churning the heart of the four Kumaras. And who in this world is going to do a peacemaking? There is a serious conflict going on here. The four Kumaras are cursing his attendants to take birth as demons, and it's a serious thing going on. And here the Lord is like one hand on the neck on Garuda's shoulder resting. That doesn't seem like a very serious pose. Then one of your hands is rested on someone who's standing next to you, and the other hand is toward the lotus, and you're trying to do some serious peacemaking. It seems like very relaxed. So Vishnu Chakravarti says the Lord is just trying to churn the heart out of, pull the heart of Kumaras through his sweetness. And here his cheeks, they were enhanced by the beauty of the makara earrings, the earrings which were shaped like fish, makara. And his nose was prominent, and his head had a gem-studded crown. So in this way, the personality of the Lord is very nicely described. Now, seeing the beauty of the Lord, what is happening to Kumaras? That is explained in the verse 42. So that Kumaras actually saw him unsatiated, like they could not just take their eyes off. They just could not take their eyes off. They completely are like fully fixed, and they're not just fixed, they're also very joyous, and they bow their heads at his lotus feet. And here there is actually a transformation that is happening. So here Jiva Goswami writes how, I'm not sure if it is Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur or Jiva Goswami, they write how the transformation of the heart of four Kumaras happened. The breeze carrying the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the Lord's lotus feet enters the sage's nostrils. So here there is a question asked. The main problem happened because the sages did not take permission to enter the door. They just tried to attempt to enter the door without taking permission from Jay and Vijay. That caused all the problem. Now here, why is the breeze entering the nostrils of the sages without their permission? So it's the commentary is question making this question. So then Vishnu Chakravarti is saying this Swavivarayana, it is their own path. That is the natural path of the nostrils. There is no need of any permission. That is there. The nostrils are the natural pathway for the breeze. There is no need of taking any permission. Like rather, by saying this, he is saying the sages had to actually ask for permission before entering. If there are two guards standing outside the door, at least for the sake of etiquette, they should have asked, okay, can we enter? So that by making this point, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out that the four Kumaras had a mistake on their side for entering the doors without asking permission. So he's saying that the breeze entered the nostrils of the sages. And he's saying, see, here, what entered the nostrils of the sages are not even the aroma of the Lord's bodily form. What is entering is just the aroma of the tulsi leaves offered on the lotus feet. It is something which was kept on the Lord. It was not even the Lord's personal bodily aroma. Just an object which is in connection with the Lord, when its aroma enters the sages who are Brahma realized Gyanis, they experience change in their body and mind. Forget about the personal body's aroma of the Supreme Lord. It is just the tulsi leaves aroma which was kept on the lotus feet of the Lord. That entered, they already lost themselves. What if the bodily aroma of the Lord had entered their nostrils? What would have happened? Through this, the acharyas are saying how the Brahman realization is so meager that even an object in connection with the Lord, when that aroma enters the nostrils of these Brahman realized Gyanis, their heart is getting churned, their heart is getting pulled towards the Lord. So, how powerful is the personal form of the Lord? And we are not just saying, now the four Kumaras will say after a few verses. I'm not sure if we will be able to go through all of them this week. So here this famous verse, Tasyaravindanayana Padaravinda Kinjal Kanishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swavivarena Chakara Tesha Samkshobhamakshara Pichitta Tanyo. So here the four Kumaras are experiencing transformation of heart just by the breeze which is carrying the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the Lord's lotus feet having entered their nostrils. And they are experiencing change both in body and mind. And even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding, Api Chitta Tanvo means they were actually Akshara Jusham, but now their mind and bodies, everything is getting churned because of that aroma of the tulsi leaves. And what is going to happen after this is they are going to get attached to the personal form of the Supreme Lord. So they view the Lord form again and again. They look at the lotus feet of the Lord, then they look from the lotus feet to the waist and then to the face and his smile. They look at the smile. Again, they look at the lotus feet, they go. So, like that, they are just not able to hold themselves. They are again and again and again looking at the Lord's form. And in this way, they actually achieve meditation on the Lord's personal feature. And this pleasing form of the Lord, which is approved by many authorities, is the object of the yogis who seek meditation for liberation. But here, they have already achieved liberation. These four sages are already Jivan Muktas. This same pleasing form of the Lord is the object of meditation for the yogis seeking liberation. But these four Kumaras have already achieved liberation. So they should be actually not attracted. This shows if after liberation, if they are still so helplessly attracted to the personal form of the Lord, that the impersonal realization or we can say put it this way, the personal realization is higher than the impersonal realization. This point proves this verse, which is seeming to be a very simple verse, or this pleasing form of the Lord, which is approved by many authorities, is the object of meditation for the yogi seeking liberation. But if we read into the verse carefully, we can see it is an object of meditation for the yogis seeking liberation. But these devotees, these four Kumaras, are already liberated. So they must be unattracted. They must be in a state of equilibrium. But here they have completely lost themselves. They are unable to control themselves. They're helplessly looking at the Lord's form. They are becoming fixated. They have achieved meditation on the Lord's personal feature, even though they were already liberated sages. So this proves how the personal form of the Lord is much more attractive, and even for a Brahman realized Jnani. Last five verses. um, If I take next week, I will have the opportunity to go through this whole section in a more coherent way, and again kind of get a chance to like kind of think about the meditate on this whole section again, and then we can come to the 46 to 50, the last five verses. They also have a lot of subject in there, so I think it's we don't need to rush here. We can just stop here for today, so that we will have time again to revise whatever we saw in these last 10-20 verses, and plus add the last five verses, and then complete this chapter next week. If you all agree to it, then we can do it that way.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So I'm sorry it was quite slow, because there is a lot happening here, so it's better in these kind of sections we can go slow and just try to absorb as much as possible. I'm extremely grateful for everybody who has joined. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
So if any of you have any questions, we can take for some time.
Prabhu, I have one question, one last one. So you mentioned terms like, so we have three realization: Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and Bhagwan realization. So Brahman realization are Brahmavadis, Paramatma realization, Paramatmavadis, Bhagwan realization are pure devotees of the Lord. So, and so I was just wondering, so these Brahmavadi, they meditate on impersonal feature of the Lord. Bhagwan realization, they are devotees, they serve the Lord in jumping 9 process of devotional service. But I have never heard, never read about these Paramatmavadi things. What's their practice? I'm just curious, because I think they are in the middle. They they perform some sort of meditation service. So what's their practice? And is there any institution which comes with the disciplic succession, like in, I'm just curious because I've never heard of this Paramatmavadi realization. What they do, what's their practice?
Both Bhagavad Gita. So if I get your question rightly, you are saying that we all know about the three features of the absolute truth: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. You've heard about the impersonal schools as well as the personal schools. What about these Paramatmavadis? What do they do? What is their sadhana? Is there a parampara? That's the question,
Yes,
right?
yes, Prabhu.
So it's a bona fide path also, and we see the mention of these sadhanas both in Srimad Bhagavatam as well as in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So the chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita explains this process of Ashtanga Yoga. So the Ashtanga Yoga is actually means at a particular stage can also be called as Dhyana Yoga. So the first five stages: yama, niyama, pranayama, asana, pratyahar. After that, there is dharana, there is dhyana, and there is samadhi. So even in the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, very first chapter, that Shukadeva Goswami explains this process of meditating on the super soul or meditating on the Vishwarup form. He gives two alternatives in the first and second chapter. So the yogi who is pure at heart meditates on the super soul. I just don't have the opportunity in this sharing screen to pull out the references for Canto. I can do that since our presentation is over. So right in the Canto 2, actually, Shukadeva Goswami goes through the whole description of Paramatma. How does he look? and how to meditate. So the Lord and the heart is the name of the chapter even. That is Paramatma, right? The Lord in the heart. So here in this chapter, Shukadeva Goswami clearly explains like what is the process of meditation on this Paramatma, as well as how does he look. And also in the third canto, in the Sankhya section also, Kapil Muni explains the form of the meditation on Paramatma. And Krishna also explains the processes of Ashtanga Yoga. And he doesn't go through the description of the Paramatma itself, the object of meditation, but he goes through the other processes involved in the Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga is object of meditation is Paramatma actually, and Ashtanga Yoga is a bona fide process also. And Parampara, I means currently I'm not sure of what is a parampara that I can state for that, but surely it is a bona fide process. Who's practicing today that I'm not sure, but
Hmm.
there may be people for sure, but I just don't know.
So, so if I understand it correctly, so Prabhu, Brahmavadi meditate on the impersonal feature of the Lord, but Paramatmavadi meditate on the Virat Swarupa or the some sort of personal. So they also meditate, but they meditate on more personal feature of the Lord. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, they primarily meditate on the Lord and the heart, which is Paramatma actually.
Okay. Okay, got it. So yeah, so
Person
again,
that
it's
is not pure, then he is prescribed to meditate on Virat Rupa. That's what Shukadeva Goswami explains. It's called Krama Mukti, and this is called Ashtanga Yoga, direct path.
got you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. It helps.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. There is no other
Hare
question. Yes,
Krishna.
Mother Athena, please.
I apologize. Can you clarify for me? I know you had answered this during the class, but I wanted to clarify another aspect that I heard. Originally, I thought so for the Gyanis and the Brahmavadis, their destination is to merge with the Brahmajyoti, which is the Brahman realization. Ashtangi yogis, who are these Paramavadis, those who follow the Ashtanga yoga path, meditate on Paramount in the heart. I had understood, and through your discussion today, that when one perfects one's life through this path, then they make this decision: do I want to worship Bhagavan, become his devotee, or do I want to merge with Brahmajyoti? But I had also heard, and I apologize if you can clarify if this is correct or not, that when one perfects one's life through meditating on Paramatma, because it's Vishnu, they actually reach another destination in Vaikuntha, one of the other planets, not Goloka because that's Krishna, but because they've realized Paramama, which is a Vishnu form, they actually go to another planet in Vaikuntha. Is that correct or no?
You're asking the Paramatmavadis, when they meditate on the personal form of the Lord in the heart, they actually go to the Vaikuntha planet. That's what you're stating, right?
Yes. Is it that they do go to one of the other Vaikuntha planets with, a different relationship with
They
the Lord?
merge in Brahman. That's what you're stating.
Um, no, sorry. I wanted to know if that is correct. That do they go to a different planet, just not Goloka Vrindavan, one of the many other planets with Vishnu, or do they now have to make that decision, as you mentioned, that they want to merge with Brahman, or they want to, worship Bhagavan? Well, I guess actually in Vaikuntha, even when you go to one of the other Vishnu planets, you are still worshiping Bhagavan, the personal form.
Yeah.
Is that correct? I just wanted you to clarify actually what is the destination when one has perfected one's life through Ashtanga yoga. Is the destination one of the Vaikuntha planets with Vishnu, or they now are at this middle juncture where they have to decide one or the other?
So I'm not able to immediately pull out the verse. It is in this section that I'm having in my screen actually in the second canto itself. I'll pull out and maybe share with you later. The Paramatmavadis, in them, when they meditate, they can distinctly have either they or still, even though they're meditating on a personal form, still they can desire to merge in the Brahman. that is also a bona fide ashraya for them, like a destination for them. And or if they want to have, like if they develop a personal kind of a relationship kind of a thing, then they desire to go to the Vaikuntha planets, they can go. So both the choices are available for the Paramatmavadis. It is not that one, because they are meditating on the personal form of the Lord in the heart, they will have to go and accept the personal form. And right here in this particular chapter that we saw in the third canto, chapter 15, so I just showed these verses also, how the Kumaras who saw the Lord only within their hearts earlier now directly saw him accompanied by his devotees. So that means in their process of meditation, they had already seen the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Still, they chose to remain as Brahmavadis. Does this answer your question, Athena?
Yes, thank you so much.
So if there are no questions, I see something has come up in the chat. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you all. If there are no other questions, we can stop at this point. Thank you very much for joining. Take care. Shri Prabhupada, Shri Prabhupada, Shri Prabhupada, Shri Prabhupada,